tested. So I'm here today to show you how to make an awesome cup of coffee with the aeropress. It's an inexpensive little device, costs about $25, and it lets you control all 4 of the variables that can affect how good your coffee tastes. The amount of coffee, the coarseness of the coffee, the length of brewing time, and the temperature of the water when you're brewing. And the aeropress lets you control all 4 of those things. We'll show you how it works now. You get a filter. It comes with like 250 or 300 depending on where you buy it. It goes in a little black cap that goes on the bottom of the main cylinder. Twist it on. It's in the cylinder. It's important to get it a little bit moist before you start. It doesn't have to be hot water or anything special. Just pour a little tiny bit of tap water in there. I'm sure fancy people will say distilled works better, but you know, just enough to get the filter moist and you're ready to go. You don't ever want to do this with a dry filter or else bad things happen. It's not the end of the world, but it just doesn't taste as good. So next we're going to grind our coffee. I actually got some Blue Bottle coffee it's a local San Francisco brand. I mean, get whatever you want. Oh man, that smells awesome. I found that a medium to fine grind works better with the aeropress, you know, somewhere between what you'd normally do for a drip and like an espresso shot. The key is to keep the time between roasting and preparation as low as you can. So I'm using this not as a measure, just kind of as an eyeball. I'm going to dump probably 2 or 3 scoops of beans in. We'll actually measure once it's ground because it's going to change a little bit based on the consistency of the grind and all that. I'm going to check my coarseness. So I'm going to guess on this grinder somewhere like between fine and medium. It doesn't have to be exact, but just kind of a ballpark grind. It's a little more forgiving than, say, espresso or you know, your traditional drip maker or even a French press. It's going to be really loud. Apologies. So one of the things about the aeropress is the box actually advertises that it's an espresso maker. That's not really the case because espresso is made by blasting steam through the ground beans in a really tight puck and all that. It's kind of a similar technique that we're going to use, but it's not steam-made coffee, so it's not really espresso, even though you can make a very strong, very tasty cup of coffee with it. I have my scoop that came with the aeropress. Going to measure 2 even scoops. If you want to get really specific, you can weigh. I find for a 10-ounce cup of coffee, usually 20-25 grams is right, depending on which kind of coffee you want to use. But you can see two scoops. Kind of like Raisin Bran, but with coffee. So the neat thing about the aeropress is actually that you have a really short brew time, which gives you enough time to extract a lot of great flavor from the coffee without getting all the acid and bitterness that happens when the water sits for too long in the coffee. Okay, so the water is boiling really vigorously. We don't want to hit the 212 degree water in the coffee because it'll do bad things to it. It makes it really bitter and acidic. So what we're going to do is let it calm down until it's not quite boiling anymore. Then I'm going to pour it in this guy, which, you know, hitting the cold plastic will cool it down to about the right temperature. You want to, if you have a thermometer, you probably want between 195 and 200 degrees for, you know, kind of the best taste. The instructions actually recommend doing it significantly lower than that, between 165 and 185. But I've found that 190, 195, 200 is about perfect for my taste. We're going to pour until we reach the top of the tube and actually go a little bit further because we want to wet the grounds a little bit before we actually dump the coffee in for our taste. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to dump the rest in. Then we're going to stir for about 10 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003. And look at how active. See, you're getting a lot of carbon dioxide and stuff released. Or maybe it's not carbon dioxide. But you're building a really nice crema, almost like you do with a shot of espresso on top of the coffee. Okay, so the trick with this is you don't want to push too hard when you're plunging. So you want to plunge slow. You want it to go over about 10-15 seconds. Now, if you have to push really hard, you probably ground your coffee too fine. So likewise, if the coffee runs through without having to push, you'll always have a little bit of leakage. But if it falls through without having to push at all, then you probably have ground too coarsely. So you want it to be a little bit of resistance, but not too much. Now we have a really strong cup of coffee concentrate. To kind of finish it off, I'm going to take this really strong concentrate and I'm going to add about 50 to 60% more water on top of that. Okay, so that's the perfect cup of coffee. Let's show cleanup. Takes about 2 seconds. Super easy. You just unscrew the lid and push the whole puck out into your trash. You'll want to rinse that off, brush off the grounds. You can kind of see them there. Looks like a moonscape or something. Really cool. But that's it. It's super clean, super easy. Cup of coffee, you can make it at your office or desk or wherever. So for Tested, I'm Will Smith. That's how to make a perfect cup of coffee with the aeropress.